I talk about that writ, so you'll be me, the writ, and then Waddell.
Okay.
Yeah, come up on that.
Okay.
Me,
You,
the writ, Waddell.
Back to you, and then you're going to do.
Back to me, I do Pacific Press, then Holmes, and then the voiceover for Brit. 1-1. This is a unique step, isn't it? And a major step.
Hot coffee, Jack.
And the first ever. Well,
Thanks to the information of the Canadian Mental Health Association, more and more Canadians are becoming aware of the importance of mental health.
The way we see it, mental fitness and physical fitness are equals.
Stress. The more you know about it, the better you cope. For information, please write the Canadian Mental Health Association.
Hello, I'm Alan Thicke, inviting you to join me on weekdays on CTV for entertainment that never stops. We'll have music, comedy, and interviews with talented international celebrities. People like Helen Shaver, Dan Haggerty, Phyllis Diller, Barbie Benton, and many more. It's all weekdays on CTV. Please join us. Thank you.
Join Alan and his guests for an hour of unmatched entertainment beginning September 15th at 3 p.m. on BCTV. The Alan Thicke Show, weekdays at 3 beginning September 15th.
Webster is next on BCTV.
good morning. Lots going for the Webster show today. And the major step is being taken today in the courts of British Columbia, which could reshape the energy picture in Canada and the United States. And you're going to see now the body of the writ, which names the entire Cabinet of Canada in a unique lawsuit launched by a young and fairly new member of the NDP in the House of Commons at Ottawa by the name of Ian Waddell. And what Ian is trying to do is to get the courts to declare that actions taken by the Parliament of Canada with reference to the Alberta-US link of the pipeline is illegal and shouldn't be allowed unless certain guarantees are incorporated in it, because, claims Waddell, the whole matter is against the wishes of Parliament and against the laws presently of this particular country. This is the kind of story in which you will either have a job, freeze, die. He could be wrong, he could be right. We've got to know about it. That's point number one. Point number two is my daily nag about Southams and the brutal mergers, whatever you like to call it, and takeovers of the newspapers on the West Coast. I see that an old-time Liberal has been appointed to do some kind of royal commission to look into this grave danger to the press. As I told you before, it's all double talk. Forget about it. Nothing will happen. They're concerned mainly with the one-paper towns in the East. Well, what I'm concerned about, with a little smile on my face, is not only the fact that Southams have assured the publisher of The Sun 100% free speech. What a humiliating position for a publisher of a newspaper. But that The Sun itself is changing its coverage of what actually happened. The Sun originally said in its own columns that The Sun had been sold. And then they have to quote Paddy Sherman, who might well be the super publisher of the new paper, Province Sun is my prediction, who says, very snottily, first of all, The Sun has not been sold. It was news to me. Thompson did not own the Vancouver Sun. That was news to me. The Vancouver Sun has been owned for 23 years by Pacific Press. That, of course, was technically correct. But there's another story in the Sun yesterday, and they must be right on this, which is even more illuminating. A deal between Thompson and Southam announced last week involved the share, it says, involved the sale of Thompson's share of Pacific Press, and here's where they make the final admission, which included editorial control of the Vancouver Sun. We finally have an admission that the Sun was, at least on the face of it, until this week's squelch, that it had its own editorial control. And now that editorial control has been graciously guaranteed to the poor publisher of the Vancouver Sun. What's his name? I forget it. Doesn't really matter anyway. Also on the program this morning, and he should be a subject of a fair amount of attack by you and by me, is Tom Holmes, who has replaced that American chappie. Sherrill. Tom Holmes is the president of the Insurance Corporation of British Columbia, a body which is always properly under attack because it handles your money and mine. And there's a third matter where your money and mine is being handled right now. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And of course I'm talking about the brick business. Now, I don't really yet understand the brick business. Whether or not this means that Helliwell at last, instead of sitting on his portfolio, is going into cash business as a manager to make large money in the name of a crown corporation for the people of British Columbia. But we'll have reports from both Anton down at the stock market and, oh, we're getting that now. 7 o'clock this morning at the Vancouver Stock Exchange. We move in to see what's happening. Shares, the sale of shares was suspended yesterday on brick when it became clear that Mr. Helliwell was making a takeover bid for 51% of the stock of the Kaiser operations. And we'll be able to show you some of the interpretation of that and make our own minds up on the whole business later on. First this morning, we're going to deal with brick. After the break. Somebody's going to make a lot of money, a lot of the Kaiser people, when the stock goes from $32, $35 to $55 perhaps. Here's Anton at the Stock Exchange this morning.
Jack, we're on the floor at the Vancouver Stock Exchange. We're trading, just opened about 20 minutes ago. So far, there hasn't been a heck of a lot of action in terms of brick shares and in terms of the money. The trades have been, somewhere around $7, down to $6.90, up to $7.25. There was a tremendous mob of traders that tried to get in on the brick action right at the outset, but the price hasn't done very much. There was suggestion yesterday when the trading was halted in the brick deal, the takeover bid for Kaiser was announced, that it was a bad deal and that brick shares would either plummet or that it was a good deal and brick shares would go up. But this morning there hasn't been much of a change in the market. When trading was halted yesterday, brick was around the $7 mark. It's still holding that area. Kaiser was halted last Friday. There was speculation that a Swedish oil company was going to try and take over the company, and that didn't come about. Brick put forward its offer, and it closed at $32 last Friday. This morning, the first trades in Toronto, none in Vancouver yet, but the first trades in Toronto were for $53.75. So if there's a real winner in this, it's not the brick shareholders, but the people who hold the Kaiser shares who are looking at a profit of maybe $20 if they take up that kind of an offer. But brick shares haven't done very much. So your company and mine is still holding it pretty well around $7, Jack.
Yeah, I got 200 shares in it, $7, and Kaiser at 52, 53. Next, our colleague Jim Hart with Helliwell of Brick.
Why now, and why 55 bucks?
It's a tough question to answer, but easy for us. It has value, and it has value for us at $55, and it's the price that it would take to do the deal.
And even when the book value per share, you say, is nothing more than $10, you're paying 5.5 times that.
Sure, the real value in that property is the coal reserves that sit in the ground that have been discovered over the last 5 or 10 years, and that really give it literally hundreds of years of coal reserves.
And they're not calculated in book value?
No, because the company essentially didn't pay for them. They spent money going and finding them.
Okay, what makes it worth 55 bucks a share today when it wasn't worth $44 a share weeks or months ago.
Well, what was worth $44 a share months ago was a block of 25%. I think if we'd bought 25% of that company 3 months ago, we'd be sitting with 25% of it today. What is available are basically all the shares held by the public in Kaiser Steel at 55, and there's a very significant difference between those two circumstances.
Would you not have picked up more than 25% at a $44 a share offering?
No, I don't think so.
Why is that?
Well, I don't think it would have been available to us. Perhaps some more, but certainly not enough to get us over the 51% or control hurdle.
Even when it was trading at significantly less on the market?
No, because the insiders, the management, and close friends of management had essentially the control block, because they, added to the Japanese shareholders, would have held more than 50%.
Okay, a couple of questions. Was there something that happened 10 days ago? The paper is suggesting that this all started about 10 days ago.
Well, we've been watching this property, as was indicated by the fact we had the option some time ago,
Yep.
for some long period of time. And finally, we sensed that now might be an appropriate time to make another approach, and that's what we did.
What goes into sensing this?
Well,
Does somebody phone you up and say?
No, it's not subtle. It's a fact that we have been in the business of looking for obviously good acquisitions for the last couple of years, and we're simply aware of all the opportunities that might be available. And simply our senses were out and awake, and we were correct. It was.
Why didn't you offer $55 when you offered 44?
Before?
Yeah.
Because we sensed that any price control was not available at that time.
Who are you getting control from now that you couldn't get it from them?
Well, the board of directors are going to recommend that we be allowed to buy all of it.
So what will Kaiser do for BRIC?
It'll give it an asset that'll be worth millions of dollars into the future for its own shareholders.
Is this the big plunge that makes BRIC an operating company and not just a holding company that's disappointed quite a few folks?
I think it's one of a number of steps that will do that. I would say that we are already well on our way to being an operating company through our activity in oil and gas exploration, and also through our now wholly owned forestry subsidiaries.
What about the board of directors? Does it change?
BRIC's board of directors?
Yep.
Well, BRIC will add Edgar Kaiser to its board of directors, which we're delighted about.
Who's going to run Kaiser?
Well, the existing management of Kaiser will run it.
With how big an influence from BRIC?
Well, obviously, we will have a lot more input into where it's going into the future, and hopefully we'll bring new opportunities to that company that it didn't have before when it was fettered by the Foreign Investment Review Act.
Does this not make Edgar Kaiser something akin to a civil servant?
Why?
You buy him out, put him on the board of directors of a company we all own.
Well, we're not a government organization. We're a private enterprise corporation.
Okay. Strictly Southeast Coal, do you see any participation in Northeast Coal? Given the politics of the day.
Well, I'm not really aware of what particular arrangements Kaiser may already have for the participation in the Northeast Coal. And through them, we may easily participate in Northeast Coal.
I'm looking to be convinced that this is a good buy.
Well, I think I've told you it's a good buy, and you have skepticism. I think what you're really going to have to do is wait and see.
You've made a lot of people in Kaiser rich. The shares have already gone up quite a bit this morning.
I didn't realize. Have they opened for trading this morning?
$53 was the figure I got on the phone. That's
that means
a
that
healthy
the
jump.
arbitrageurs are fairly confident we will be successful.
And you're confident?
I hope so.
What's the time lag? When does the world realize that you're right?
I would say within a year and a half from now.
The arbitrageurs were successful. They're the boys that are buying at $53 in Toronto on the stock market this morning. There's a lot to be learned about this yet. I just wish I knew how much Edgar Kaiser made or how much the Kaiser family made. You know, just for sheer pecuniary nosiness. Now we're going to a bigger topic with Ian Waddell, NDP MP. I will not call you Waddell. I absolutely refuse to call you Waddell, even though that is the proper pronunciation of your now Anglified name. Ian Waddell. Vancouver Kingsway. Used to be Simmer Holt's riding. After the break. Lawsuits are a dime a dozen. Courts are jammed with unnecessary lawsuits. But here's one that might prove to be a turning point for Americans and Canadians. What time, Ian Waddell, are you issuing your writ and your statement of claim against the Trudeau and all his cabinet in Ottawa?
This morning at about 10:30, 11 o'clock. I'm going down after I leave you to issue my writ on the pipeline.
All right, make it quite simple to me why you're doing this, because I remember the House of Commons in Canada has approved an Alaskan pipeline with a link to the United States.
Well, what happened,
for
Jack?
natural gas.
Well, what happened, Jack, was in 1978, after a lot of debate, royal commissions, the public being involved in the thing, the Parliament of Canada, the House of Commons and the Senate, approved a pipeline to take American gas from Alaska down to the 48 states. We got some jobs out of it. We got a link to, our gas.
To get.
Well, we were to get. And what happened then in this year is that the Trudeau administration turned around without going to Parliament, and this is the key, just by what we call an order in council, just decreeing it, said, well, we're going to change that, and we're going to, instead of building that whole pipeline, we're going to do what's called a pre-build. And the pre-build was, in fact, to build the part of the pipeline from Alberta down to the United States. And what we said was, what I said in the House of Commons was, now you're going to sell off Canadian gas. You're not going to take American gas to the States. You're now selling off $17 billion worth of Canadian gas from Alberta. And there goes all our cheap gas to the United States. And what do we get in return? We get no guarantee that the whole line will be built, and we get no guarantee that we'll ever get a gas swap from the Americans later on to replace that cheap gas. I said in the House of Commons, and this is a political point, that it was going to cost Canadian consumers in the long run a lot more money because of this decision. But there's a legal point as well, and that is that once again, the government is going around Parliament, not going to the people's representatives and not saying, we'll amend the act, we'll change the act, we'll face Parliament and we'll have a vote on it.
You're telling me that the original act is to approve and build, under certain conditions, a pipeline from Alaska with natural gas through BC into Alberta and down to the States.
Yeah, to transport it from there to the States. That was a $22 billion
American
project.
gas to the States.
That's right.
Was there anything in that deal at that time that there'd be a separate pre-build exporting Canadian gas from Alberta to the States?
Nothing in that. As a matter of fact, the House of Commons and the committees and that, Tommy Douglas tells me, considered it and rejected that because they said, well, the whole line will never be built. The Americans, they're not dumb. They'll just take our gas and keep taking it. We'll keep selling it to them.
And there is no contractual commitment from the U.S. government or there is from the Canadian government, from the U.S. money to build that line from Alaska to Alberta to the States.
When Lalonde was in opposition, the present energy minister, he said, we got to have ironclad commitments that this whole line be built. And now all he's got is a letter from President Carter, who may not be president later and who's not guaranteeing with any money this line, saying, well, we hope to build it in the future, but nothing more.
Is somebody now committed to put the what do you call that, pre-built section from the border to Alberta in the ground now?
Oh, it's going to be built, part of it's going to be built this winter.
Whose
and
money?
Another part, it'll be built basically by Canadian money. And West Coast Transmission's involved, Alberta Gas Trunk, and Trans-Canada Pipeline. Basically, Canadian money will be once again spent to build a pipeline that'll take a whole bunch of Canadian resources back down to the United States.
Two basic questions, rather, first one basic understanding. You say no Alberta gas to the United States unless there are no additional Alberta gas to the United States, unless there is an ironclad guarantee that Canada, Western Canada, or Canada can draw on the gas in the ground in Alaska.
Yeah, what I've said is
Have I got that right, though?
I think you've got that right. Parliament first said, well, we're building a pipeline down from Alaska to the States to transport American gas. Now the government's turning around and sending Canadian gas to the States, and that's not what Parliament approved, and we should have a new bill, and we should have a vote on it.
You said $17 billion worth of gas?
$17 billion worth of gas. No,
it's not cheap. Surely it's $4.47 per thousand cubic foot at the border.
That may not seem cheap right now, but later on, when we've sold all that gas, instead of sending it to Vancouver Island or to the Maritimes or to banking it there later, and using it in Ontario to convert from oil to gas, instead of doing that, we're going to send it out now. And that means later on, Canadians are going to pay a lot more money for that expensive gas that we'll have to bring from the Canadian North.
Does Lougheed want to do this?
He wants to do it, sure, because he's going to make some money on it right now.
But he's a great Canadian, Mr. Law. He surely knows from his own energy corporation that we have trillions and trillions of feet of surplus gas that we can now sell for cash for his heritage fund.
Well, that's an argument that's made, but it was made before that. We had barrels and barrels, millions of barrels. Joe Green said enough for 300 years for oil. And now we're told we don't have any oil. Our country has got to be pretty stupid to sell out all its oil resources. But it's got to be doubly stupid to, once it's learned that lesson, to make the same mistake again and now sell out all its gas resources.
Are you against, in any case, selling gas to the Americans?
I'm not against selling...
Nationalist NDP?
Well, no, I'm not necessarily against selling gas to the Americans, but I want to make sure that there's gas for Canadians first. That's what I want to make ironclad commitments that we've got gas.
Are you aware that British Columbia is down many hundreds of millions of dollars in its natural gas exports to the States because of two things? One, the price, $4.47, which is not attractive to El Paso. And two, one, the price, what's the other point? Not attractive to El Paso. And two, because we don't have a compulsory take-or-pay clause for the Americans to take it, such as Alberta has.
Well, one of the things, BC's been selling gas to the Americans. I've just got two things.
And it was your NDP government that took out the take-or-pay clause.
Well, that's true, that they've been selling gas. But what I'm saying is with this pre-build as well, we're going to finally cut off those BC exports, and it's going to hurt BC in the short run as well. So it's another thing that has to be considered.
You're telling me the pre-build link to Alberta, from Alberta to the States, will further diminish BC's sale of gas and knock Bennett's revenue.
That's right.
Is that bad?
Well, it's going to hurt this province in the future because we're not going to have that money to spend for highways or social programs or whatever.
I want to talk about your statement of claim to the federal government immediately after the break. Ian Waddell, Vancouver Kingsway NDP, taking the unusual step of issuing a writ against the Cabinet and the Governor-General, I presume. The lot.
The whole one.
Knowing that a lawyer who acts for himself is a fool for a client, have you done all the legal work?
No, I haven't. You're right. That's an old saying. No, I haven't. I have a lawyer who acts for me, John Laxton, who's one of the senior counsel in Vancouver.
L-A-C-K-S-T-O-N? John Laxton. What are the pointed points of your statement of claim? What are you actually asking the courts? I presume you're asking, is it the Supreme Court of BC or the federal court?
The Supreme Court of British Columbia.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm asking. First of all...
Why can you take an action in BC anyway on this?
Well, because it affects British Columbia.
I
reside in British Columbia. Why not? Why should everything be done in Ottawa? Why not do it?
Why not separate and solve all the problems of traveling back and forward?
Well, okay. That's another matter. Let me tell you about what I'm saying.
Right.
First of all, what we were talking about before was the sort of political things about selling out the gas and so on. But this is what I consider a legal matter as well. And Stanley Knowles said that in the House of Commons. What I'm saying, and in summary, I'm quote from my statement of claim here. The three orders in council, those were the decrees that the Cabinet passed without going to Parliament. Create a scheme, establish a pipeline for the transmission of Canadian natural gas from Alberta to the United States, whereas the Act, which was passed by Parliament, the Northern Pipeline Act, 1978, intended to create, and did create, a scheme establishing a pipeline for the transmission of American gas from Alaska to the United States.
And that's what the original Act said.
That's what it said.
This is for American gas.
That's right.
And
there was a treaty, and there was a route, and the whole thing. Now, what they're saying, and what Mr. Trudeau said in answer to my question in the House of Commons, to be fair, their side is, well, we're only building a part of the highway first, and then we'll build the whole highway. But I replied that well, you're giving away all your cards. If you do that, the Americans may never build the whole line.
Your big strength is that there is no guarantee, no commitment that the rest of the pipeline from Alberta through BC to Alaska will ever be built.
No, I don't think it ever will under the existence. As a matter of fact, I've been told by some experts in the United States, in Washington, that the Americans right now, unless they change American law, will never go ahead with the northern portion. I just find it incredible that the Canadian government would do it.
How can the Supreme Court of BC give you relief against the Parliamentary Act? Are they entitled to interpret it and say the government is breaking the law?
That's right. The government, the Cabinet just has to follow the law like you and I have to follow. And so...
Not the RCMP, just the Cabinet.
Well, just the Cabinet. Even the Solicitor General has to follow the law. And if the court says that the act was illegal, then the government will have to go back to Parliament They have to put their energy policy on the line. They'll have to tell us why they're doing this in a little clearer fashion, tell us we have reserves, and come clean and get it passed by Parliament. That's what I want.
What's Joe Clark's position on this?
Oh, it's this way and that way and this way and that way. At first he questioned it, and he should, you know, a lot of Conservatives feel he should be sticking up for the rights of Parliament. But he's also got support from the gas and oil industry in Alberta, and they're urging him to cool it. And so he's had no position. The Conservatives are split. Some of the Conservatives in B.C. who should really be concerned about this because it affects B.C., some of them even ducked the vote in my motion in the House. So they really haven't got much of a position.
Well, you're off for the summer?
I'm going back. I'm going to Washington next week.
For this?
Do some more. Learn some more about energy.
From the Americans?
Yeah.
When will your case come up?
I hope it'll come up in the fall. I've asked my lawyer.
I happen to know that the court lists are very good and that the reorganization of the Supreme Court has made it quite possible to get trials on very quickly in the courts. Matter of fact, I just was down seeing some of the people the other day. So you shouldn't have any problem getting it on quick for headlines before Parliament goes back into session.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that. I hope that's the case, but I'd like to get it on as soon as possible, and I hope that the government, you know, just doesn't attack me on all these preliminary points, but gets to the meat of the issue, and we'll have it heard and determined.
Okay, dokie. Next question. You must be highly unpopular in Vancouver Kingsway, spending all your time on national energy debates instead of looking after the problems of Simmer Holt's former constituents.
Oh, wow. I think I look after the problems of my constituents, too. I mean, a member of Parliament has two roles. One role is to do national matters, and energy affects my constituents. It's right out of their pocketbook. It's bread and butter. I mean, it affects them a lot.
Okay, give me a small NDP sum up of the state of Parliament. Trudeau, do you see he's saying about the Constitution? Certainly we're going to consult with everyone, but we'll bring it back from Britain my way.
Well, you know how many letters I've had from my constituents in Kingsway on the Constitution?
One.
None. Sunday shopping, you get 100. On the Constitution, none. Now, that's not to say that the Constitution isn't an important matter, but the people, at least out west, seem to be more concerned with, you know, the regular things like inflation, unemployment.
Does the House of Commons care about the Constitution?
Well, Trudeau cares about the Constitution. He's determined to bring it home. And that's going to be one of the big debates in the House.
Okay, Ian Waddell, you're going to file your writ in the Supreme Court. Your lawyer, John Laxton, will file your writ in the Supreme Court today. We'll see you in the witness stand. My thanks to Ian Waddell, Vancouver Kingsway NDP MP. He's making quite a name for himself as an energy spokesman for somebody or other, the NDP. After the break. Next, Tom Holmes, president of I.C.B.C, a man we all love to hate regardless of what his name is, because he runs I.C.B.C. Tom Holmes, a former senior official. What was your exact title?
Senior Vice President of Autoplan.
Senior Vice President of Autoplan. Took over from Robbie Sherrill as President of I.C.B.C. on July the 1st. It's not the happiest job in the world because many men's hands are against you, including the private automobile insurance industry, including the OTEU, including the body shop industry, and on a number of occasions, individual members of the public. Fair sum up?
Pretty good, Jack.
What are you trying to do to the body shops? Put them out of business and run your own, on the basis of your own test shop, take over all the body work?
No, not at all, Jack. I think there is a problem in the industry, and I don't think that the corporation just flat out paying $2, $3, or $4 an hour to the body shops in whole will solve that problem.
What is the state now of the resistance by the body shops? I know that we carried a story on television the other day. Somebody's having a row over there. We carried a story on television the other day showing that some of the big boys, their yards were emptied, but some of the kind of back street places, their yards were jammed.
I didn't see the story, Jack, but my main concern is that the motors of this province have a facility to get their car repaired and get it repaired properly and get it repaired at a price that is not going to be affect their insurance premiums.
But I mean, are half of the big boys not doing work? Or are people paying the surcharges?
To the best of my knowledge, there's very few people paying the surcharges, Jack. There is, in our information, ample body shops available to have the motors repair their cars at our cost.
What's the basic labor rate you give the body shops?
$25.60 for the basic labor rate, plus $3.20 per hour for repair work, plus $7.20 for paint supplies. So it's just not a basic $25.60 that they're getting. They're getting
$36 an hour they're getting.
Well, no, Jack, they wouldn't get both of the 7 and the 3. They would either get one or the other.
One or the other.
That's correct.
The 7 or the 3.
Yeah, and there has been criticism that some of the costs that they're saying that we're paying, we haven't made provision for. But the cost of that paint that's at $7.20 per hour was $6 last year, Jack, and that was an increase of 20% over last year.
I thought they were free enterprises in business to be economical, cut costs, improve the production. They just want you to subsidize the whole shot regardless, don't they?
Well, you could say that, but
Would you say that?
Well, Jack, let me put my position forward very clearly. The corporation must be responsive to the needs of the motorist, and we're committed to pay the body shops a fair and reasonable price for their services. They are our largest supplier. We pay them over $110 million a year. We've got to work with them.
You know, the other point that strikes me, this would probably be intolerable for you. There are some body shops who are totally efficient, totally unionized, modern equipment, you know, they can straighten frames and do all these kind of things. And there are other hole-in-the-corner shops which don't do such good work, some of them. Why should you pay the same rate to everybody? The guy who runs a sleazy little operation is going to make his fortune on your money. The guy who is hog-tied by his union and his standards of work may be struggling to get by.
Well, that's part of our problem, Jack, because as a corporation, we're bound to pay an average rate for labor across the board, across the province. And there's no doubt that some shops are better run, some shops have different overhead. But
you couldn't set up 2 categories of shops, could you?
Certainly we could. We could set up any number we want, Jack. But how do you do it? And how do you police it? And who am I to say that you should get $25 and your brother gets $30?
Point accepted. Your own labour negotiations with OTEU have always been tense and nervous, and you had a strike a couple of years back, did you not?
Well, Jack, I think the statement that tense and nervous, I don't see that. We had an excellent contract 2 years ago. We've been sitting and talking now with our union people over the past couple of months and had good relationships. And I'd like to say one thing very clear, that these people that we're talking with are our employees, and I'm awful proud of them. They're doing a good job.
You don't have to give me all the PR nonsense. Have you made a deal with them?
No, not yet. The contract doesn't come up till the end.
How much are they asking for?
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I don't really know.
Like $10 an hour?
I don't think so.
No, but it could be $3.50 or whatever. You're confident a settlement will be made with the OTEU?
Yes.
When's the deadline for this?
Well, I believe the contract is up at the end of the month, or the first day of next month. But
so
we're
we can watch for that on the 1st of October, or thereabouts?
Well, as I say, we're negotiating now, and I'm not directly involved in negotiating, but I do have the information.
You've made some statements. I want to talk to them about you now. Might as well do it now. Did you make a statement that we're headed for a 20% rate increase?
Jack, I think the statement I made was that if the claims that have occurred in the first 6 months of this year continue and are just as bad in the second 6 months of this year, 20% rate increase is very possible.
20%?
If not more.
If not more, is very possible.
Yes.
With no discounts for older people?
Well, that has nothing to do with the claims, Jack.
When do the older people lose their discounts under the fare program?
It would be next year. Age as a factor in the fare program disappears next year.
So with the 20% or more, and I'm talking about the ordinary joker, one, he will pay his increased premium because he ain't got no option, right? He will not get a discount because of age, sex, or marital status.
Correct.
And he will, what's the other thing he loses? Oh yes, he'll be categorized if he's the most experienced and safest driver in the world with the extraordinarily bad under 25 group of young males.
No, that's not correct.
What's not correct?
You could say they're categorized the same as somebody that's a bad driver?
Yeah.
And that's not correct.
Oh, apart from your $300 penalty.
Well, that's a fairly big part, Jack.
Categorized, though. Categorized. The 66-year-old guy with good eyesight and good hearing, and I'm getting there myself, will pay the same basic rate under fare as the 17-year-old with a hot rod, providing the 17-year-old with a hot rod has not yet had an accident.
Yes, that's correct.
Crazy.
Well, Jack, you keep coming up with a hot rod or an underage driver. All I'm saying here is that what is the difference between any individual of any size or shape or color or sex that hasn't had an accident? What makes you think there should be a difference?
Should I have to tell you? Insurance is based on probable risk.
Yes.
You give me a premium based on probable risk. If I'm 90 and blind, you won't give me a premium at all if I don't have a driver's license.
That's correct.
If I'm 90 past my test and can see, I'll get coverage from you at the basic fair rate.
Yes. And if you've never had an accident, what is the difference, Jack?
Has any place in North America yet adopted fair?
Not to the same extent. The concept of FAIR is our acronym that we've put on it, but indeed there's other provinces and other jurisdictions in North America that have similar type of operations.
Nothing magical has happened, though, to the probable risk of accident with certain groups.
No, all we're doing, Jack, is saying, hey, we're going to collect our premiums a little differently and use a couple of different factors or less factors than anyone else. And, you know, we can use any factor we want. You know, color your hair, eyes, car.
Are you yet levying the $300 penalty for a blameworthy accident?
No, that becomes effective March 1st next year, Jack.
What is blameworthy? I mean, let me make that quite clear. If I have an accident next year, I'll pay my usual premium plus $300 for the first, total of $600 for the second, $900 for the third, and $1,200 for the fourth, right?
Yes.
What is blameworthy?
Blameworthy is an amount, you're involved in an accident for which an amount of money is paid on your behalf in excess of $100.
Supposing I'm 40% to blame.
Well, if the 40% to blame amount exceeds $100, you'll be responsible for a driver accident premium.
There's a lot of people will be wondering about this. Might as well get it clear in my head. That if I am involved in an accident for which my insurer or a plan pays money in excess of $100, like say $101.
Yes.
Or $101,000, my penalty premium is $300.
That's correct.
Good. Webster and Tom Holmes after the break. Snake? Tom Holmes, president of I.C.B.C, has just been explaining to us the penalty system, which comes into effect when?
March 1st next year.
March 1st next year. Now, there's one little wrinkle, and I'll put it to you this way. If I have an accident, which I suspect is going to cost me less than $300, I'll pay it myself, if I'm to blame.
Yes.
But you have a way of giving me an option on that.
Yes, Jack. We feel that it's most important that the claim be reported to us and be handled by our claim staff. They're the professionals. And once the claim is settled, you'll be sent a notice advising you that you have the option of either paying the amount of the claim if it's less than $300, or if your choice, you can pay the $100, $100, and $100 over the 2-year period.
That $300 penalty is applied against me in 3 installments over 2 years.
That's correct.
100, 100, and 100. And any multiple number of accidents, will this come with my annual? No, these will come as separate computer notices every time I owe you another 100 of my...
Yes, they'll be billed from the date of the accident, Jack.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to harry you on this political insurance scheme of yours, which fair is. But I think that the private insurances are still mad at you. In fact, I know they are. Because, did you raise rates last year?
Yes, there was a rate increase last year.
How big?
Approximately 10%, Jack.
Still at discounts?
Yes.
The year before?
I believe there was no change in rates year before.
No change rates year before, about 10% last year. The private boys are now right out of the ballpark, correct?
There's only one company involved major in the private passenger. A lot of the other companies are involved in the commercial business.
Yeah, but they're right out of the ballpark. And now you tell us, oh, 20% or more. Looks like you've got the whole market tied up tight, and now you're going to suck it to us.
Well, that's a very nice comment, Jack, and your thoughts. But if you look at the financial position of the corporation each of those years, we were at a break-even position. And this is our mandate, is to break even.
Oh, I know it's your mandate, but we just don't know how efficiently you run.
Well, Jack, if you want to look at efficiency, the corporation runs an expense ratio of less than 17%. Now, I don't know of any private enterprise company in Canada or North America of our size that runs anywhere near that type of expense ratio.
What were the old figures we used to use for the private insurance company? 60% expenses?
No, around the 30% bracket.
30%?
Yeah.
Because you pay very little in the way of taxes, you pay no corporation tax, and because you've got a monopoly. Obviously, we would expect you to spend no more than 17 cents out of the claims dollar. Is that correct?
Well, no, Jack. I think the corporation does pay grants in lieu of taxes on all the property. It's very true we don't pay income tax, but if you suggest that we should pay income tax of your dollars as the motorist in BC, send it to Ottawa, let them take a piece out of it and send it back here, then this can be done.
Good response. One other point about body shops, because I was talking to one of the guys today. He said, you know, the difference in the costs of the body shops is unbelievable. Good fiberglass for fill costs $90-some a case. Chintzy cheap fiberglass costs anything from $20 up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you insist on standards of repairs, or are you insisting on old parts and cheap fiberglass? Or don't you care what they do?
Jack, the car has to be repaired to the satisfaction of the owner, and it has to be repaired properly, and those repairs must be guaranteed. You, as the owner of the car, have the say where your car is repaired, and you must be satisfied with them. And that's only proper.
In the condition, and restored to the condition in which it was in prior to the accident.
Exactly.
Even if I am to blame, providing I have collision insurance.
Absolutely correct. The fact that you're to blame should not stop you getting proper repairs to your car. This is what we're here for.
Yeah. Well, mind you, I never have accidents, so I have...
Nobody ever has accidents, Jack.
Sake.
But
I have no experience with body shops.
No, you say no one has accidents, but we're going to have 430 to 40,000 accidents in this province this year. Somebody's got to be having them.
The son said quite a good thing the other day. Under your plan to start fining drivers $300 for each accident after March 1981, if they cause them, higher rates will eventually catch up with the bad drivers. But it's likely to be a continuing increase in the total number of costs and claims, because you're very worried about the claims going up now, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
The money for this will have to come from somewhere, and it comes from the general increases, and it will be the good drivers who will be subsidizing the poor ones.
Well, Jack, the very principle of insurance says yes to that question there. The many people pay for the losses for the few, and it's basic.
Fair enough. We'll go to the phones this morning. I haven't done a phone session since I came back, really, and I.C.B.C. Now, I don't want a lot of individual claims. I'd like some general tough questions to Mr. Holmes on FAIR and I.C.B.C. And we'll take some incidents, but don't expect us to pull out the file and settle a claim on which you claim to have been cheated in the next 2 minutes. Holmes and Webster, on the phones, after the break. Well, you got the good news again from Tom Holmes this morning. Watch for an increase of at least 20% in your rates, right?
Well, if the drivers and the accident rates reduce in the last 6 months, there's hope for us.
But they won't, because winter's coming.
Well, Jack, winter doesn't create accidents. People create accidents.
You get more accidents on a bad day in winter than on a dry day in summertime.
Sure we do.
Go ahead to Tom Holmes.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm talking about this $300 that you're going to charge these drivers if they have an accident. As far as I know, there's 3 categories of blame, that being 0, 100, 25, 75, or 50, 50. Is that correct?
Well, that's the ones that we use. The court, of course, apportions blame on an individual percentage basis, but basically you're right.
Okay. So if I'm involved in an accident with another driver, okay, and I have, you come along and say, okay, I'm at fault of one of these categories. And if it's the 25, the 50, or the 100, is it not correct that both of us are going to have to pay this $300?
In the event that we pay on your behalf an amount in exceeding $100, you're absolutely correct.
So how do you consider that to be fair?
Well, are you suggesting then that you shouldn't pay? The person that's involved in an accident is partially responsible?
Not at all. What I'm saying is that if you're going to extract $600 from these 2 drivers because they're involved in the accident, but the other driver is, say, 50%, or no, say 75% at fault, why shouldn't he pay 75% of that $600 and I only pay 25 if I'm found to be 25% at fault in that accident?
No, because we're saying if you're responsible for an accident, you must pay the penalty for the being the person responsible for the accident.
But I didn't realize in many cases you'll be getting the double premium for 3 years. 100 for 2 years.
Okay, you're absolutely right, Jack. But conversely, this is the amount of money we need to pay for those accidents and balance the books.
If I'm 24% or 20% to blame, I'm regarded as guilt-free. Is that right?
No, it's based on the amount of money.
The money.
Right. But let me ask you this question then. In the event that we don't collect it from the two people, then we have a choice. We must then go to the people that haven't had an accident and collect that money from them. Now, which is better?
You're missing my point. What I'm saying is that I'm not saying that these two drivers don't have to pay. I can see them both paying, but what I'm saying is that you're charging one driver with being 75% at fault of that accident, and me with 25. So why should I have to pay $300? He should be paying 75% of that $600, and I should be paying 25% because I was found 25% at fault in that accident.
Well, that's logical, but it wouldn't be desirable politically.
Well, this is where it's supposed to be fair, and that I can't see as being fair.
Thank you, sir. Anything else you want to say on that?
That's not a political problem at all, Jack.
Fair was a political decision.
No, the political decision was to eliminate age, sex, and marital status, Jack, not the FAIR program.
Oh, agreed. But, I mean, that was a political decision. There's no argument about that.
No argument.
There's no insurance company that would say we'll do it this way.
No, this is our answer to that. And let me make this one point.
Human rights caper again.
Very clearly, we heard from our previous system where we had everything tied to the automobile, the people were unhappy. They came back and they said, look, I.C.B.C, what are you doing attaching the discount to the vehicle? People drive it. The people have the accident. We said, okay, we hear you. We are going to put the responsibility on the driver, and this driver accident premium does exactly that.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, and following up on your FAIR program, is it not true that one is still going to be paying a higher premium even if he uses the car for business?
There are categories for rating of driving to and from work and not driving to and from work, and business classifications are still in effect, yes.
Why is that?
Well, what we're saying is that we're not eliminating all factors for rating of automobile insurance. We're eliminating age, sex, and marital status. Use is still a factor. It has been, and we're still going to continue it, and it will continue in the commercial vehicles also.
But let's ask him that. Why should it be? I mean, why should it be any different? I mean, if you're going to have no discrimination, it's going to be fair.
We can eliminate. There's nothing that says we have to use it, Jack, but it is a method of distributing the rates based on use, that's all.
Thank you, sir. Good question. Go ahead from Houston, B.C.
Yes, I have a question for the man that's with you there.
Let's have it.
I have 23 years accident-free driving, and all of a sudden now, after March of 1981, if I have an accident, I'm going to be tagged with a $300 surcharge, shall we say. I would like to hear his answer about how he feels that that's fair.
Well, right now, you've been driving for 23 years. If you have an accident, you're going to lose your safe driving vehicle discount that you have right now, which is 32.5%. So if you take 32.5% of your present premium, that's what it's going to cost you to have that accident. We're saying now...
I realize that, but, you know, to me, after 23 years of accident-free, it doesn't seem, in my opinion, fair that a person should have to pay a surcharge. I mean, shouldn't the total number of years that you've been driving accident-free count somewhat?
Well, I believe it is counting because you're getting the premium now based on a 3-year accident-free discount.
Mr. Holmes, the fact of the answer to the man's question is, as of March the 1st next year, if he's driven accident-free for 150 years, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
Your point is well taken. After March the 1st next year, it doesn't matter if you're a perfect driver and had your first accident in 20 million miles, you'll pay the $300 if you're blameworthy.
Absolutely correct.
That was the...
Now, you made the point, and some of us don't think that's fair. Go ahead from Victoria.
Good morning. My question is, if you don't own a car, but use a rental car from time to time, how would the blameworthy rate be assessed in a case like that if you had an accident, say, periodically while using a rental car?
If the rental car is covered under a fleet program, any fleet policy or vehicle in a fleet program is exempt from the FAIR program. Fleets are rated on an individual basis and are experience rated. Therefore, it would not apply.
So I could have any number of accidents with a rental car and there would be no blameworthy assessment made to me directly.
That is correct, because what we do is we rate the experience of that rental car as an individual fleet, and they would pay additional premiums.
Okay, now would they would they try to assess me as a user of the rental service if I came back and they said, well, our rate's gone up because of your accident result, to try to make a further...
Oh, they nick you before you go. You know perfectly well, I had a U-drive one weekend in Kamloops, and I did about 30 miles, and it cost me $119. It'd have been cheaper to take taxis.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the $300 assessment that they might be responsible for due to
No, they're not getting
accident
one,
when
are they?
using the rental vehicle.
No, they wouldn't get it, but the answer to your question is if their insurance premium went up considerably, that they would have to increase their basic rates on the rental to cover their costs.
You pay a daily all-encompassing insurance charge anyway on a rental car.
Okay, thank you.
Much obliged. That's a useful piece of information to know. Where am I going, Gladys? Go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning. Mr. Holmes, you insure private people for their apartments and whatnot, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, is that subsidized in any way from I.C.B.C, from the automotive insurance?
No, it's not.
It's not. I had heard that you had gone in with rates far below the insurance standard in order possibly to obtain that part of the insurance money back into I.C.B.C.
No, the general insurance operation and the auto plan fund are handled completely separate. We do have...
Question, did the general insurance not start with a subsidy from other revenues?
Didn't start from one. It turned up and had a loss, along with auto plan, and the government paid to the corporation a few years back $181 million.
Yeah, but that included the wiping out of the loss in general insurance.
Yes, it did.
Are you now subsidized?
No.
Are you still cutting private insurance company rates, as I am reliably informed?
Quite the contrary, Jack. The corporation is, we feel, a stabilizing influence on the market, and we're having trouble just retaining our own business.
They're fighting you.
The market right now is extremely difficult in rates, not only here, but all over the world.
You're not entitled to get into a rate war on general insurance because you've got to break even. Do you have to break even on your general insurance, or are you entitled to lose money?
No, we must break even and make a little money in the general insurance operation.
Did you break even last year?
We made a slight profit last year.
Thank you. Go ahead from Fort St. John.
Yes, I was just wondering, if I have an accident and I pay the $300, and then I have another one, say, a couple months later, would I pay that $300 for the next one right away, or could I spread it out over the 3 years?
You will be required to pay the $100 per accident per year.
Over a 2-year... Oh. If I just have one accident, it's $300 in 3 installments over 2 years.
Yes.
If I have 2 accidents, then what?
Well, it's $200. It's $100. You will be billed for the next accident. After that accident, you must pay another $100 each year after that also.
Yeah, you pay double.
I see. What happens if I decide not to pay for the second accident then? Would I just lose my insurance, or what happens?
Well, several things can happen. First of all, that becomes a debt to the corporation, and we'll take whatever steps is necessary to collect that amount of money. And to the extent that we do have powers in the Act for suspension, and also if you have another accident, we would not pay that accident. You could lose your coverage on the first-party coverages. We will always pay the third-party liability.
Okay, thank you.
And you'll sue back, though, if necessary.
Well, let me put it this way, Jack. To the extent that we do not collect those premiums from those customers, it will mean that we'll have to pass it on to you, who has never had an accident.
No, but in a culpable accident where the insurance has been invalidated and you've picked up by impaired, for instance, if I'm driving a car impaired, you'll pay my third party, but surely I'm not legally covered, and you will sue me back for that money you've paid out on my behalf.
We have subrogation rights against you, yes.
See, you're using these fancy words again. Another question on that. I'll think about it during the break with Tom Holmes. Yeah. I had great fun with Robbie Sherrill the last time he was here. because I had got a copy of the magnifying glass used to check all the drivers who hadn't paid their bills. And you had to give all the agents a big magnifying glass, remember, to look down the small print. How much have you got in bad debts now on unpaid insurance premiums?
I'm not sure of the figure off the top of my head, Jack, but...
I'm sure you can be pretty close.
Yes, previously it was in the neighborhood of about $19 million, of which we had not collected since the corporation started.
Right.
On a percentage basis to premiums, you know, or gross operation, our bad debts are less than half of 1%.
Tom, I won't let you away with less than half of 1%. What are your gross premiums?
In excess of $400 million.
1% is $4 million.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. So you're saying you've only got $2 million now in bad debts in the corporation?
No. I said the $19 million we have is the accumulation of bad debts since the corporation started. Although we write them off on our financial statement, we don't say to you, Mr. Webster, I'm not going to try and collect it from you, and we'll go out and chase Mr. Webster.
And you'll lift my license, I hope.
We'll do whatever is necessary to get money from you.
You still got 19 million?
Yes.
Good.
But that's the amount.
Yeah. It's very difficult for me to work out what 100% would be, half of 1%.
Well, you've got to add, rather than 400 million, you've got to add up each year for 6 years, Jack.
Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Webster. I'm directing my question, please, to Mr. Holmes.
Yes, please.
I have two sons. Number one son sold a motorcycle to number two son. The number two son has rebuilt the motorcycle totally and went to register it and could not get the bike registered because the number one son owes I.C.B.C. some money. Is this a fact?
Yes.
Why should that have anything to do with the number two son?
Because it looks like a fiddle. It looks like a fiddle.
I don't see how it looks like a fiddle.
Well, number two son, number one son hasn't paid his premium. Number two son gets the bike at a nominal cost, minimum sales tax. And it looks like maybe the bike's going to be used by number one son.
No, the number one son has lost his license and is out of the province. So the number two son did not know that he could not register this bike, so he spent the money, totally rebuilt it, and hoped to go back to school with the money that he was going to sell the bike for. And now he finds out he can't even sell the damn bike. I fail to see that that is just, Mr. Webster. Or
Mr. Holmes, I would be shocked with this question. You would be more diplomatic.
Well, let me put it this way. Why doesn't the number one son pay his premium and settle the argument?
That is a good question.
And that's the end of it. Go ahead, please. Not there. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'd like to know, I had a singular vehicle accident. The steering went. I instigated no claim against the I.C.B.C. Would I be considered a bad driver?
No.
No?
No claim, no money paid out in your behalf?
That's correct.
No police action, no convictions, no nothing?
No.
Just sue the automobile company?
Would I be considered a bad driver under the I.C.B.C. regulations?
No, our definition of a blameworthy accident is if we pay an amount of money in excess of $100 on your behalf.
Thank you. Go ahead, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Good morning. This is to Mr. Holmes. Are you people concerned in the testing stickers that the provincial government have on these cars when they have an accident?
Of course, we're always concerned about the safety of a car, but it's not something that we have jurisdiction over.
Oh, I see. Because I've been in the habit of always getting my car tested on the date that.
And so you should too.
On the sticker, but the stickers they've been putting on these cars this last couple of years, why they just disappear.
Good point. Go ahead, Pete, from Abbotsford.
Hello.
Yes.
Jack?
Yes?
I was going to ask her.
Ask it. Where are you?
Am I with somebody?
No, tell him to turn down his television set, Gladys. He's got a mental block. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Holmes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Short lines of advertising here that was given to, distributed to us from 7200 block Elmbridge Way in Richmond, which is the I.C.B.C. Drive-In Claim Center, front door. The following is a partial list of auto body repair companies in B.C. which, because they wish to continue to offer the motoring public high standards of quality workmanship, safety, and efficient service, are forced to charge you a little more than I.C.B.C. rate. Each of these shops stands behind the workmanship with a guarantee. There's 173 body shops on this list.
And that's on the front door of the drive-in center in Elmbridge in Richmond?
Right.
It's not an I.C.B.C. notice, is it?
Have no idea.
Will you have that taken off?
It was just
No, that's not our notice. That's a notice being handed out by the lobby group of the body shops, the
Do you
DRA.
want that notice on your building?
I don't understand what you mean, on our building.
Well, he says it's on your door. Is
no,
that right?
No, I believe that the ARA, the body shop people, are handing that out to customers going into our claim centers. And it's in several other claim centers also.
Oh, it's just a pamphlet handed out by them. Is that right, caller?
on the front door step. That's right. When you go in the front door.
No, I can't stop that.
Instead of I.C.B.C. shops that are staying within the rates, we're getting advertisement for shops that are surcharging.
Yes, you as an individual, if you want to have your car repaired, have the option of taking it anywhere you wish. But if you take it to a shop that charges more than our estimate, then you must pay that yourself.
Well, 173 body shops in the Fraser Valley. I didn't think there was that many. I would just like to know where an I.C.B.C. shop is that conforms to the rate.
Well, I'm sorry that I don't think there's 173 in the Fraser Valley. If you look in that list, if it's the same list I saw the other day, that lists a partial list in each area, and there's about 173 on that list of the whole province.
Well, that's in the Fraser Valley.
Doesn't matter. You don't have to go. The point is well taken. Go ahead, please.
I'd like to know what the difference is between this new fare program and the program that was originally set up by the NDP when I.C.B.C. started.
Are you suggesting that there was no discounts and no territories? Is this what you're referring to?
Well,
yeah, I think he wants you to give a whole history, and I don't think we can do that. When the NDP first started, they operated I.C.B.C. on a normal insurance basis, as I recall, with age, marital, and sex discrimination.
Yes.
And that continued under social credit until the decision was taken to remove that form of so-called human rights discrimination.
With one minor exception, Jack, I believe the corporation started, there was no difference in cost whether you had an accident or didn't have an accident in your premiums originally.
That's right. There was no surcharge.
That's right.
For accidents.
That's correct.
The surcharge is new.
Well, it changed, and we gave a discount, what we called a safe driving discount of $15.25.
You don't want to get involved in all these political matters, Mr. Holmes. Did you make money last year, or did you lose money?
We made a modest profit of about $6 million. That's break even, Jack.
Legitimate, real, modest profit of $6 million?
Yes.
How much have you got in reserves these days for claims?
Well, the claims reserves, it's about $200 million, in excess of $200 million over claims that are still unpaid since the corporation started.
Okay, I'm going to leave I.C.B.C. at that this morning. Thank my guest, Tom Holmes, for appearing, and I'm going to come up after the break, which I'll announce in a moment or two, with something else I want to say this morning. I'll do a little bit of a free-for-all. We haven't done one yet. And I've learned a lot about I.C.B.C., and if I learn any more, I'll get confused. My thanks to Tom Holmes, chairman of I.C.B.C., president of I.C.B.C. By the way, did we put on any parties with tax money for Sherrill's going away functions?
I didn't. I understand he had supper
the governor,
in the governor's office. I didn't attend.
I.C.B.C. didn't put on any fancy parties, did they?
No, the staff put on several parties for them, but each function was paid for by the individual people going there.
So I wanted to know, because there are whispers around town that it wasn't so, but I accept your word. None of Sherrill's parties were paid by I.C.B.C., but were contributed to by the staff members who lovingly and willingly attended.
Yes, and they were well attended, Jack.
My thanks to, couldn't resist that. My thanks to Tommy Holmes, and I like Sherrill, don't misunderstand me. Free for all after the break. Went quite quickly this morning. Gave you my shot in Pacific Press as usual. Ian Waddell was good. At least he knows where he stands, and it may well be that he has a proper legal point. It was refreshing to have Tommy Holmes here. He hasn't quite got the showbiz dash of Robbie Sherrill, but he answered the questions well. And it's good for us to remember what's going to happen on March the 1st next year. $300 over 2 years if you're involved, if the government, if the I.C.B.C. has to pay money out on a claim more than $100 on your behalf. And if it's between $100 and $300, they'll send you a little letter saying, hey, Charlie, or Freddie, or Gladys, or whatever, do you want to pay the $300 and keep it off your back, or do you want us to pay it for you, as a result of which you will be penalized $300, even if the claim is only $200. However, I'm back. Told you a little bit about my time off during the summertime. And I'll tell you this with a pleasant smile on my face, despite all my wonderful holiday and all the rest of it, it's nice to be back reasonably in the thick of things. There'll be some changes to the format of the program, and there'll be some changes in my attitudes, and there'll be some different faces on the program, and you'll enjoy it. But if you want your first nag at Webster or on whatever, how long we got, Fred? 6 minutes? 7 minutes? 8 minutes? Well, you can handle 500 calls in 8 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Webster. Good morning. I understand you had finished with the I.C.B.C, but I tuned in a little late, and I was hoping you might be able to answer a question for me or Mr. Holmes. Good. Yes, I've been driving for about 20 years. In that time, I have had no accidents at all. Now, will my premiums go up?
Your premiums will go up a minimum of 20% next year. And if you have an accident, you'll be tackled with another $300. In the future, your driving record in the past will mean naught.
Well, then, does that seem...
That's fair.
Does that seem fair?
That's fair. Thank you, ma'am. Let me ask you a question.
Yes, certainly.
You've seen me on the television this morning.
Yes, I do.
You right? You're not watching me at this moment.
Yes, I am.
Okay, this is a very vain question.
Yes.
Do I need a haircut?
No, you look fine.
You think so?
Yes, you just look fine.
A wee bit kind of CBC-ish?
No, you look okay to me.
Because the last thing I want to do is be CBC-ish.
But get on this I.C.B.C for me.
Okay, ma'am. That's the topic. Does Webster need a haircut? Am I glad it's... Go ahead, please.
You'd never be Pierre Burton, I'll tell you that.
I've got more hair than Pierre Burton, more expression in my face than Pierre Burton, not quite as sharp a mind, and I'm a better showman than he is.
I know, that's true. Jack, welcome back. And what I wanted to say to you after yesterday's conversation is that instead of Gracie's finger, I think we...
Where's the kill button? Come on now, what are you going to say?
Instead of calling it Gracie's finger, I think we should call it Gracie Gate.
I plan, as I did yesterday, to go back over some of the new developments on the basic ground, and I shall keep you fully informed. Go ahead, please.
Oh, Jack, yes, I've been driving forklift for over 30 years.
Do I need a haircut?
No, not really. I need one.
Okay.
I've been driving forklift for 30 years in the IWA. Our plant closed down, shortage of work. I go to the IWA and ask them to get me a job. They say, well, it's too bad, old man. He says, you better go and collect welfare or go to a non-union job. You figure this fair?
Which local of the IWA?
That's the Vancouver local.
217.
That's right.
How old are you?
I'm 52.
Oh, are you fit to work?
I'm fit to work.
Well, who told you you were too old?
Beg pardon?
I mean, is there unemployment in the Vancouver local at the moment?
Well, they won't even look for you for a job. All they want to do is take your money. They won't do nothing for you.
How long have you been a member of the union?
I've got a gold pin, which gives me 25 years, and I've been in there over 30.
Well, I don't want to ask you your name, but surely to goodness you've been down at the business agent in that office in Vancouver, kicking up hell.
I've been raising hell, and they told me to get out and don't come back.
25 years a member?
That's right.
How long did you, what was the longest you worked in one place?
27 years.
And you're not qualified for a pension?
No.
You'll get one when you're 65?
I get one when I'm 65.
How much will it be?
Oh, I imagine around $350.
And you're fit?
Around $350.
Have you phoned Jack Monroe?
I phoned Jack Monroe, I phoned the Westminster local and everything else.
Did you speak to Monroe?
Well, says there's no jobs available for forklifts, you got to go and find one, or you start at the bottom and you start pulling lumber off of green chains again. That's their attitude.
I'm glad you told me. I'll be seeing Jack Monroe soon, and if I'll just mention what I won't take your name or anything. I'll mention what you said to me. It may be a brutal fact of life, but thanks for your call, and best of luck, and I hope you find a job.
Yep. Thanks, Jack.
God bless. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. Webster.
Why,
I'd have to see you from the back in order to judge whether you need a haircut or not. It doesn't look too bad from the front.
Are you looking from the back?
Excuse me?
Go and look at your television set and come back again.
Oh, that's nice. No, I'm sitting in front of my television. No, you don't need a hair.
Let me see it from the back.
Pardon me?
Let me see it from the back. My God, I need a haircut.
No.
Oh, that's a woman's hairdo.
Oh, No, little dab of Brill cream and you'll never know what
No,
happened.
shot back inside this afternoon.
Oh, dear me. Oh, well, we'll never know you.
Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Webster. First of all, I don't think you need a haircut.
Good.
But my question is...
How about a facelift?
I won't comment on that. My question is not really a question. It's more a comment. I saw Mr. Patterson of the rentalsman's office on the television the other day.
Good wee guy.
And he mentioned that right now they've slowed down on their claim center, whatever you want to call it, that they're not handling what they call cosmetic complaints from tenants.
You mean filth?
Well, pardon?
Filth. Dirt.
Yeah. Well, my point is that when he came on TV and mentioned what he did, I thought it was more or less of an invitation to the landlords to even slack off more on what they're doing for their tenants.
I rather like Patterson. I'd rather like Patterson.
I have nothing against him personally. I just thought...
No, but I think Patterson is very frank about the powers and the difficulties of his job, and it's an impossible job in any case.
Oh, I can understand that. But the point that he mentioned it on television, I thought that was an invitation to the landlord.
Well, when something new comes up, I'll get around and have him on the air again. Go ahead, please. Hello.
Yes, it's regarding Tom Holmes.
Yes, yes.
I was wondering if the people of BC are aware of what happens when you have an accident in the United States and your car is repaired down there.
No, I'd like to hear.
What happens when you come back into Canada and you're asked questions by Canada Customs regarding what damages have been done to the vehicle, or have you paid any duties or taxes?
And what happens?
Well, the car is...
Just answer this question. You had an accident in the States, your car is fixed down there. When you cross the border, do they charge you duty on the new parts?
Yes.
Oh! That's stupid. Unless, of course, I suppose there's always the fiddler who'll go down and get the work done cheaper in the States, say he had an accident of his spotted and not pay the proper duty. So it's not so stupid. No, that's logical and reasonable and sensible. Don't have accidents in the States. Have them in Canada. Have the bad ones in the States. Have the fender benders in Canada. That's for all my American viewers. I still love you dearly. And one or two of you are allowed to call once or twice a year. Go ahead, please.
Yes, Mr. Webster.
Yes, yes.
I'm from Los Angeles.
Oh, what do you know?
Yes, how are you today?
Hello, Yank.
Yes, I'm enjoying your show very much. Matter of fact, I'm in the same business you are.
Sound kind of smooth.
Yeah, right. Very.
Probably dark hair, a little on the portly side.
Oh, well, you know, what the heck.
What do you do down there?
I'm a broadcaster for KPUL in Los Angeles. And I'm well, what they call a disc jockey, okay?
Well, I ain't a disc jockey.
You're picking them up and putting them down. I can notice that.
I'm basically a reporter, commentator, humorist.
Right,
a sophisticated member of the intellectual elite and a bit of a slob.
I don't believe that at all.
What do you think of my program in 2 words or less? I've got 15 seconds to go.
Okay, I just wanted to mention something about your traffic up here. I am terrified driving the area.
We've got no traffic here.
Los
This is a
Angeles,
village.
Any day of the week than up here.
You phone me up to tell me about bad traffic, I will not watch you on KPL. What's your name?
Son of a gun.
Your name is Son of a Gun. What's your name? Slow-witted, too. What's your name?
My name is Barry Munger.
Barry.